And welcome into Barrels and Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast, our Power Rankings episode for September the 3rd. This is dropping on September the 4th. I'm Brandon. That's Michael. Welcome in, Michael Burns. How are you tonight on this fine Labor Day weekend? Always kissing the ring.
Doing pretty good, baby. I got my Cubs World Series ring on here from 016. Sits here on my desk with me. But I'm doing good. Had some nice weather, sat on the patio, watched some baseball. Got to watch some more baseball than I've gotten to lately, so it was a good time.
Can't beat that. I got to check out the doubleheader with the Cubs and the Reds earlier this weekend. A split that I didn't want to see, and we'll get that in our Power Rankings. Our top 10 Power Rankings are brought to you by 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company. Head on over to 10thwhiskey.com. Use promo code BNB. That'll get you 10% off your order. And we're not just talking about the whiskey. We're talking clothing, glassware, anything on their website that they sell, you get 10% off, except the distillate. If you buy a barrel, you don't get the whiskey to put in it for 10% off. You just get the barrel for 10% off. But hey, that's a heck of a deal. So go check out 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company for 10% off your order. Power Rankings, this is week 23. Hard to believe we're this far into the baseball season. I have one big change in my Power Rankings this week, Michael, and I think it's going to be a shock to many people.
Oh, really? Big change.
There's no longer the same last place team as I've had for pretty much the last several months, because the Oakland Athletics are now ranked 29. And the Kansas City Royals are in dead last in my Power Rankings here on September the 3rd. So yes, there's the big shakeup. There's the big news. And let's just jump right into our top 10 Power Rankings, again brought to you by 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company. So coming in for number 10 this week for me, a team that continues to dwindle and fall down the Power Rankings. Just a month ago, they were sitting in the 4th spot. They are now down to 10th for me, the Texas Rangers. They had a rough week. They went 3-3, so not terrible, but they only won 2 out of 3 versus the Mets, lost on a walk-off fashion. I believe it was a hit by pitch, and then salvaged a win on Sunday versus the Twins, but were almost swept by the Minnesota Twins. So the Texas Rangers down to 10 for me. Michael Burns, where do you have your number 10 spot?
10, I've got the same. The Texas Rangers. They played 6 games this week. They got 0 wins from their starting pitchers. 0.
Oof. And those are two of them they traded for at the deadline. So, right. Yikes.
Yeah, so pitching wins playoffs, and when your pitchers can't get you a win and can't get you deeper into the game. I mean, I think they had some pretty decent starts. Max Scherzer, 7 strikeouts, 2 hits in 6 innings or so. Just offense is not hanging around, and I don't know exactly what's going on with them. Just everything.
Bullpen's not been great. Their starting staff is all right, but they have been hit or miss scoring runs. Adolis Garcia hit a walk-off on Sunday. He had been in a major slump, and just the way the game was going, he pimped that out. He went, I think, 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts until the walk-off. They still score runs as a whole. They've got the 3rd most runs, and they've got the best run differential in the NL or in the AL West, 2nd best in baseball. Second best in the American League, 3rd best in baseball. But the Texas Rangers at number 10 for both of us. I think we're probably in lockstep for number 9 as well. I have the Chicago Cubs up a spot from last week at 10. They're up to 9. They did take 4 out of 3 versus divisional opponents. That's all you can ask for in a week, right? 500 or more baseball versus divisional opponents. Should have went 4-0 in Cincinnati. They lost 2 heartbreakers Friday night and Saturday night. They had a lead going into the bottom of the 9th in both of those games and blew it. The Cardiac Cubs up 1 spot. They did take 2 out of 3 versus the Brewers earlier this week. They're scoring a lot of runs as of the year, but really this past week they had a hard time scoring until Sunday. But overall, the second half of the season, they're one of the better teams in baseball. 31-17 since the start of the second half. 20-11 in the month of August, which is the 6th best record in baseball. Playing good baseball, and they've got a hard week ahead. They're playing the Giants and the Diamondbacks. We'll be at 2 of those Diamondbacks games later on this week. But that's my number 9 team, the Chicago Cubs.
Number 9, I've got the Philadelphia Phillies.
Oh.
They did take 2-3 from Los Angeles, but they lost the series against Milwaukee. Only a +3 run differential on the week. I think that they needed to do a little bit more damage against Milwaukee for us. And they had
so you're holding it against them.
Yes, they had the lead at one point 5-3
5 to
3
4 or 5 to 3 at Saturday.
and
That
lost
error by
7 to
Bohm. Yeah.
5. Yeah, that error by Bohm, just bases loaded. Hate to see it, but
Yeah.
Philly's still first place, first holding the first wild card spot.
By
Um,
two and a
they
half games.
they have a light schedule this week. They're in San Diego and then home versus Miami, so not too bad for them this week.
Oh, Miami just won 4 in a row and are climbing up. Speaking of the wild card, you mentioned the Phillies up 2.5 games on the Cubs for the number one. The Cubs have a 3-game lead over the final wild card spot, but coming into play on Monday, that final wild card spot in the National League, there are 4 teams tied for that final spot with a 511 winning percentage, I believe, and that is the
Yep.
San Francisco Giants, the Cincinnati Reds, the Miami Marlins, and the Arizona Diamondbacks. And a lot of these teams all play each other within the next couple of weeks. So we've got wildness in the wild card for the NL wild card here coming up in the next couple of weeks. My number 8 team is that team you just talked about, Philadelphia Phillies. They had a great month of August, at least offensively. 18 and 12, but they hit 59 home runs in the month of August, which is second ever in Major League Baseball for the National League or AL League. We're talking 59 home runs, second to just the Braves, who did it earlier this year in June with 61. But they're hitting the ball much better. That offense is starting to come around. A couple of questions with Aaron Nola. He hasn't been great. He's been hit or miss as of late. But Philadelphia Phillies hold a 2.5-game lead over the Cubs. Hard for me to have the Cubs ahead of them right now, as they pretty much had almost the same record in the month of August. I'm going the Philadelphia Phillies in 8 as they take on, as you mentioned, the Padres and the Marlins this week. They didn't do a whole lot this week versus the Angels or the Brewers, but still 3-3 up. They're down one spot actually for me from 7 to 8 this week.
Right. Yep. And 8 for me is the Cubs. I just have them. They could have been. What did they lose against Milwaukee the first game? Was it 1-0, 2-1, 2-1,
6-2. They
6-2?
They gave up 4 in the first inning.
Okay. So, the Cubs could have had only one loss this week. Like you said, we went into the ninth inning in 2 games with the lead. But this Cubs team, you never know when they're going to score. They could score every inning. They go down, and you have right now the faith that they're going to score again. And that this offense is just in lockstep. Jordan Wicks just come up and is producing. Javier frickin' Assad. The Cubs are just doing things that usually in the past teams like the Cardinals and the Braves always do. They need a spot. They just fill a guy with it. They just call up Canario, waiting for him to get his appearance. Shane Green doing great things at AAA, coming up with the Cubs. The Cubs have depth, and they only got 2 wins out of their starting pitchers this week out of 7 games. That's because they just flip flopped. How many runs? How many times did the lead change today? 4, 5?
Multiple times. They had the lead to start the game after the second inning, and then they came back in the 6th and the 7th, I believe, before going on a gangbusters run in the 8th inning with 7 runs. But the team I have in 7th, they jump up one spot. It was hard for me to move them or the Phillies. They did take a sweep versus the Boston Red Sox earlier this week, and that is the Houston Astros. And then they lost 2 in a row to the Yankees. As we record this, they're actually down 3-1 now versus the Yankees, so they could get swept by the Yankees. So the Houston Astros, number 7 for me, but that's a tentative number 7. They probably have the better offense altogether, I think, when they're all clicking than the Phillies, and I think they have a much better rotation than the Phillies do. But those are 2 really equal teams. They both were in the World Series last year, but the Houston Astros, number 7 for me, plus 98 run differential. They have the 4th best record in the second half, I believe, 27-19. No, that make that the 5th best record. So,
JV.
Yeah. Hey, not bad. Justin Verlander pitching well. Hunter Brown. You've got Framber. That's a team that has the experience too. So number 7 for me, the Houston Astros.
Yep, number 7 for me. I got the Milwaukee Brewers. Losing 2, they moved down 2 spots, losing 2 of 3 to the Cubs, 1 of 3 to the Phillies, and one of them was a little bit of a fight. They have quite the week this week. Pittsburgh and New York Yankees. Cakewalk for them compared to the Cubs, San Francisco and Arizona. But we've talked about Milwaukee's 3-headed monster of Corbin Burns, Brendan Woodruff, and Freddie Peralta. They only got 1 win this week out of 6 games.
Yeah, Cubs took two of the starters from Burns and Woodruff. So that's your number 7.
Yes.
My number 6 team is the Milwaukee Brewers. I have them sitting right where they were. You just mentioned it. They went 3-3 last week. They do play the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Yankees. That Yankee series right now looks maybe a little bit more difficult than it did just a couple weeks ago. Yankees look like they could improve this week to, I believe, 6-1. They went 3-1 versus Detroit, and they have a chance to sweep the Astros. So they'd be carrying some momentum. The Milwaukee Brewers still 76-6. I believe they hold a 3.5 game lead over the Cubs as of start of play on Monday. Their offense is playing a little bit better, but that's their weak spot. They've only got a run differential of plus 23 on the season. They played pretty well in the month of August, 19-10. That's the 5th best record. It was actually one game better than the Cubs, if you look at it regarding a wins-loss perspective. But they're a scrappy team. I don't think that they're the best team in the league, and I think they'll have a hard time in the playoffs scoring runs. But right now, they're my number 6. Michael Burns, who's your number 6?
Number 6, I got the Houston Astros for all the reasons you said. They have this week up against Texas and the San Diego Padres. So not a terrible week for them. Hope to see more from Framber and Justin Verlander. Hunter Brown, who was kicked out of the rotation when Verlander came into play, is now pitching and doing well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to see that. Jose Altuve's doing well. Kyle Tucker, they have it. Houston Astros have it.
The Astros have that's going to be a big, busy series and a very good series to open up the week. Houston at Texas. Texas needs this big time because they're in cahoots with the Toronto Blue Jays trying to catch them. They're only a game and a half up on the Blue Jays. It's a very tight. Both the wild cards are very tight. Just there's not as many teams in the AL that have a shot. I'd say the Boston Red Sox kind of had their fish cooked this week with that sweep to the Astros, as they're several games back now out of that position. But
Houston could definitely put Texas out here. Not put them out, but put them further, make it more difficult.
Definitely. And they could lengthen their gap over Texas here in the next couple of days as well. So that's our 10 through 6 as we jump into number 5. Want to ask you to hit the subscribe button if you haven't done that already. We'd love to have you subscribe to our page. We're putting out more exclusive content day by day, whether that's YouTube Shorts or our Thieves of the Week, which went out yesterday. Some of the best plays in baseball over the last week. You'll have to go check that out. That's linked right here at the top. As far as my number 5 team, it's the same team I had last week, the Seattle Mariners. They had a rough week. They only went 2-1 versus the Oakland Athletics. You'd hope for a sweep. And I called it last week. I said that Mets series was going to be a difficult one because of the travel. They had to go from Seattle all the way to New York to play the Mets. And they're actually in a rough scheduling spot because they have to fly now to Cincinnati and play an early afternoon, midday game at 4:10 in Cincinnati on the road again. They're 3-3 on the week. They didn't do enough to fall in the standings. They didn't do anything to climb up the standings. So sitting at 5 for me at 77-59. Coming into this month, they had the second best record in August. So 22-8. Hard to move them anywhere, even if they had a 2 or 3 game slide. And I wouldn't even call that big of a slide.
Right. I had Seattle at the 4 spot last week after they just were on a hot streak for 2 straight weeks. But I have them dropping a spot to the number 5. Only a positive 3-run differential. Only 1 win out of their starters this week. George Kirby gave it up today. Didn't look good, but I'm not worried about them. They've got the 4-headed monster of Wu, Castillo. Yeah, Castillo.
Castillo, you got it.
I was stunned. Castillo, Gilbert, Kirby, and then they even have
Bryce Miller,
and Emerson Hancock right there. So. Not really worried about them. Their offense, Teoscar Hernandez is turning it around. He's hitting home runs and hitting like 350 over the last 2 weeks. So doing well. So Seattle I got at number 5.
Coming in at number 4 for me is the Tampa Bay Rays, 7-3 in the last 10 games, but 3-2 this week. They did lose the series and salvaged a victory versus the Cleveland Guardians in Game 3 here on Sunday. They took 2 out of they swept the Marlins in a 2-game set. They continue to just rack up wins. 83 wins, 83-54, only 2.5 games behind the Orioles, they're doing it without a lot of their pitching staff, and they're somehow just scrapping it and continuing to win baseball games. 3-2 this week. Hard to push them down. They're plus 188 run differential. They're scoring runs. They're stopping the other teams from scoring runs. They still had a very good month of August, 18-10 in the month of August. In the second half, they have the 9th best record of baseball. So hard to move them further down, and they're staying in the exact same spot for 4th place for me.
Yep, I've got them in 4th place, positive 14 run differential, so they had a great week. Scoring runs and limiting them, Adam Savali, Zach Eflin, Tyler Glasnow. They'll be more fun this week. They got Boston and Seattle in Seattle to finish the week, so that could be, like you said earlier in this power rankings, the playoff teams, competing teams are all playing each other. And it's going to make
and that's a 4-game series, I think, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So that's going to be a great series. Is that in Tampa or is that I think that's in Tampa, isn't it?
I think so.
I think it is as well. But Tampa Bay Rays, both number 4 for us. In 3rd place this week, I've got a new team, and they drop a spot. Last couple of weeks, I've had the Los Angeles Dodgers in 2nd. I have them falling to 3rd, mostly because they got beat up in a couple of these games versus the Braves. The Braves kind of showed them who the team in the NL is. 1-3 this week versus the Braves. They did sweep the Diamondbacks. They're the Diamondbacks' daddies, and then the Braves came in and said, "We're your daddies."
Who's your daddy?
Who's your daddy? The Dodgers did sneak out that final game win to make it a 1-3 series versus the Braves. They still score a lot of runs. I'm not saying they're a terrible team. Just when you lose 3 games to the best team in Major League Baseball out of a 4-game series, and the Braves just kind of looked like the class of the NL this weekend. I thought it was a good series. Thought it would be a little better, but hey, same. The Dodgers dropped 1 spot for me down to 3rd.
Yep, I've got the Dodgers in 3rd as well. Now, the Dodgers did get 4 wins from their starting pitchers out of their 7-game stretch. So Bobby Miller showing up, Clayton Kershaw showing up.
Walker Buehler made a rehab start today.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
That's a weapon.
Down in Oklahoma City.
They've got time. He's got Oklahoma City's the
AAA. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think it was two innings of a rehab start.
Well, this is the last week I know of, or second to last week, or last week of the AA season. So he doesn't have any much more rehab time. So he's just going to have to come up and, if it is not ready, use it in the bullpen or who knows. Walker Buehler, though, that's fantastic news. Dodgers have a much easier schedule this week. They've got Miami and Washington. No cakewalk, as both teams have great pitching going right now, and C.J. Abrams for the Washington Nationals looking like the prize that they were hoping for when they got him from San Diego Padres. I think I say that every week about the Washington Nationals.
Yeah. The last couple of weeks, I think you're gushing over C.J. Abrams in like half our episodes that we record. So as we move into our top 2, this is Barrels and Barrels of Bourbon and Baseball podcast. Please hit the subscribe button below if you haven't done so already. We'd love to also hit the like and comment. Who's the team that you root for? Who do you think needs to be changed in our top 10? We'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well. And as we jump into our final 2, my number 2 team, the Baltimore Orioles, 3-2 this week. They did 4-2 this week. Excuse me. They take both series versus the White Sox and the Diamondbacks, 2-1. That was on the road, I believe, in Arizona. That was a tough scheduling quirk. They had to fly from Baltimore and then play in Arizona after playing the White Sox in Baltimore. But they're up a spot, 85-51. That is the 2nd best record in baseball. And they're 2nd in my power rankings. Run differential's up to plus 101, 20-10 in the month of August. They 31-16 since the start of the second half. That's the 3rd best record in baseball. It's continue to win games, continue to look good. They're a young team, so they're going to need some veteran leadership to step up towards the end of the season for the stretch run, but they look like they've got it in them. Gunnar playing great defense, playing great offense, and this team just continues to be the class in the AL here over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I've got Baltimore right there at number 2. Still waiting for, in the coming weeks when the AA season ends, that Jackson Holliday will come up and start getting more consistent playing time. They don't want to call him up yet, as his AA season's still going on. But I still expect Jackson Holliday to come up and contribute. The Baltimore Orioles
is tooting that horn since like March.
I think Baltimore is going to be all in because I wouldn't say all in, but Yes, all in because their owner came out and said, "Oh, we can't afford to keep this team around." So they're gonna have to make their runs while they can, while they're hot.
Right.
So I think you throw all the marbles in right now and go for it. Still
Oh,
don't
there's
know how the Baltimore Orioles are gonna do in the playoffs. Their starting pitching is not the greatest. Jack
oh,
Flaherty got getting roughed up. He's having issues with it sounds like clubhouse issues even a little bit as
oh
he had
boy.
a start skipped and they were like, "What's going? Why?" He just kind of refused to he just avoided it.
Yeah.
So don't love Baltimore's pitching situation, but their offense and those kids, Austin Hayes making great catches in left field.
He continues to do things in the outfield that you wouldn't. I wouldn't have guessed him to be one of the. I wouldn't call him a Gold Glove outfielder, but he's making plays left and right that continue to look at highlight reel plays. So
Right.
he's a stud, and I mean they've got studs up and down their lineup between Adley and Gunner, and the way Cedric's playing. You've got Santander, Mountcastle had a great couple of weeks. Overall, they're getting a lot of contributions from all over their lineup. And speaking of that. That's where our number one team is for how many weeks in a row outside of the chance that I bumped the Baltimore Orioles up earlier in the month of August. The Atlanta Braves coming in at number one for both of us. Best team in baseball. They're 90-46, and coming into Sunday, they were playing 667 baseball. That means they won 2 out of every 3 games that they played. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
We've talked about how they have so many hitters with 20 or more home runs. It's now at 7. They have 10 players with 10 home runs or more. There's no stopping in that lineup. And this is the difference right here, the Braves. Why the Braves are so good offensively, but then pitching, they got 5 wins out of their starters this week, out of 7
Freed,
games. Freed,
Elder.
Strider, Elder, and Morton. That's a monster right there. Strider and Freed could be an ace. Morton could almost be an ace on a team. He might be the ace for the Baltimore if he was on Baltimore.
Right.
Um,
They're stacked everywhere. There's not a weakness on that team. And I thought it was probably the bullpen, and that might still be the Achilles heel. But, I mean, I saw a stat the other day. It said the Atlanta Braves spots 1 through 5 in the lineup have 170-plus home runs, which is better than, I think, 14 other teams from those 5 guys alone or something.
right.
Or maybe it was 4 other teams. Whatever it was a ridiculous stat just showing about how they put the ball out of the ballpark. That is the one thing that scares me is they are very home run dependent. I think 55% of their runs come via the home run, which is more than any other team in baseball by like 5 or 6%. If you get a hot pitcher or two in the playoffs and can shut them down, I don't see how you will shut them down, but you never know. Think crazier things have happened. They also have, I think, multiple guys who've played every single game this year. Like 4 out of the 7 guys who've played every single game this year.
That's true. They've been healthy.
Well, not only are they healthy, but also will they be able to have the stamina come October, right? Are they going to be burnt out playing
That's,
every single game?
that's
Acuna and Olsen, I think, are the top 2.
right. They're monsters. But
Yeah, they are
that's
monsters.
just true. Maybe they get some rest down the stretch once they secure that first seed.
It's possible. It's possible. So that is our number one and our top 10 power rankings brought to you by 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company. Don't forget to head on over to 10thwhiskey.com. Use promo code BNB. I always like to give you my honorable mentions. And what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to give you my 30 through 11 in reverse order. So we're going with Kansas City in dead last, Oakland Athletics 29, Colorado Rockies 28, the Chicago White Sox about to be eliminated from the playoff contention 27, St. Louis Cardinals 26, Washington Nationals, one of my big droppers, down to 25, 24. The LA Angels, which are the biggest droppers this week after getting swept by the Oakland A's. They're 24. 23, the New York Mets. 22, the Pittsburgh Pirates. Silently, they had a 5-1 week this week. Detroit Tigers, 21. They also had a pretty good week. They're up 2 spots. San Diego Padres, 20. Cleveland Guardians, 19. New York Yankees, 18. And they probably could be a little bit higher come next week if they continue the stretch. San Francisco Giants, 17. Cincinnati Reds, 16. Miami Marlins in 15th. Boston Red Sox in 14. Arizona Diamondbacks in 13. Minnesota Twins have, I believe, a 5 or 6 game lead now over the Guardians. They're to 12, and the Toronto Blue Jays just sitting out of the top 10 at 11.
Yep, poor Blue Jays. They just can't get in. They're sitting right there on the fringe, man.
Yeah, and just fringe of our top 10 and fringe of the playoffs right now, as
Right.
they are currently outside of the wild card in the AL. Again, thanks for watching. We'd love to have you hit the subscribe button if you haven't done already. If you like our stuff, if you hate our stuff, let us know. We'd like to hear your thoughts. Put it in the comments. Hey, we're continuously trying to get better and make this a better experience for you. So if you're watching, we appreciate your time. I am Brandon. That is Michael. This is Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast. We talk high proof and high heat.
Oh, yeah, baby.
And Michael and I are going to be in person this week going to some Cubs games. You can look for more on our podcasts on Spotify, Apple, as well as the iHeart, Google, and Amazon podcast platforms. Again, I am Brandon. That is Michael. Michael Burns. Take us home, just as you always do.
Let's go.